Sweet Home is a world where your desires become monsters. And before I get into this recap, I want you guys to know that the webtoon is very different from the show. I love this story, and I want to get it straight that the themes are somewhat different, especially the psychological topics that are more in depth within the webtoon. I'll also be talking about some differences between the show and the webtoon, and I'll share my opinions on that between each part, kind of. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as me. Also, there's spoilers, of course. Alright. The story starts off with Hyun Cha, a social recluse who also resents his family deeply. He doesn't even want to hear his own mother's voice asking him to go on vacation with them. As his family is driving to go on their trip, they get in a terrible accident from a man suffering a nosebleed, and they tragically pass. After their deaths, he receives a phone call about the news and realizes that he's now officially alone. Moving out of his house, he goes to a place called Green Home Apartments, with the first interaction being nearly killed by a weed whacker. The security guard who almost killed him apologizes and starts small talk, but Hyun awkwardly responds. As Hyun walks away, the security guard gets a nosebleed. The moment he gets into his room, he thinks about how he acted at their funeral, clearly struggling to grieve and come to the terms with the fact that they had died. He arrived to the funeral late and in sandals, which is incredibly disrespectful, and made a scene about how he only received $20,000, questioning how could they leave him with such a small amount of money. He starts resenting himself for the way he acted and wonders if he should kill himself. Then marks into his calendar the day he should commit, October 25th. He tries to find something to do, but the internet is down and he has no other hobbies. He's hacky about them. But as he points out that his situation sucks, a voice in his head asks him, "So, what are you going to do about it?" He gets startled, but sees no one is around. The security guard from earlier comes ringing at his doorbell, with a bloody tissue in his nose. He came to warn Hyun about some construction company and bad maintenance, asking that if they ever come, not to sign any agreement, and gives a welcome gift to Hyun. Hyun then says he feels as if something is off. As the security guard leaves, Hyun's neighbor comes out yapping about some addition, but also stating that she's been starving because of the diet she's on. As she leaves, she also suffers a nosebleed. Later that night, Hyun is watching some TV as his neighbor returns home. He listens to her talk to her cat through the wall and gets flustered as she talks about getting the shower, and then he backs away, noting that this place isn't so bad. But then loud music starts playing from the apartment above and he changes his mind. A week later, Hyun gets on the game and notices that people have been AFK for a few days, thinking that they must have had a stroke while playing. But then someone in chat starts talking about hearing voices and suffering nosebleeds, the voice in his head telling him to kill his parents. No one takes him seriously as he starts flooding the chat like something happened to him. And then the music upstairs continues to bother Hyun, and he goes to call for security, but no one responds. We then meet Detective Wook Pyun, trying to smoke on the roof. Oh, dude, I totally butchered that name. Alright, trying to smoke on the roof, but he finds that the door to the roof is locked. A little girl named Eun comes up and addresses him as a mobster, but Wook is quick to defend himself. Hyun Cha, you pathetic fool. No one will protect you. A voice ridicules him in a nightmare, and he wakes up to a notification about his ramen delivery arriving. The dream he had shows us glimpses about how he was before he became a social recluse, and shows us that his dad even attempted to defend him. He then checks outside for his delivery, and finds it opened up by his neighbor, with blood leading to her apartment. Chomping noises are heard coming from her room, and a bloody collar of her cat drops into the view of Hyun. A monstrous arm grabbing the collar back, and the monster can be heard eating it. As Hyun tries to back away, he accidentally steps on a ramen pack, and alerts the monster that he's there. He books it back to his room, hiding under his bed. Something rings his doorbell. We cut to a man standing on the street, trying to get back home. While on the phone, The connection suddenly cuts, and his phone gives off a loud beeping sound as something walks up to him and then kills him. We come back to Hyun, panicking, contemplating if what he saw was genuinely a monster. But then, how did it ring the doorbell? He hears his neighbor calling out to him, pleading for help, but notices that it's a different voice from the monster he heard earlier. He goes up to the door and does see his neighbor. But then, Hyun asks to see her arm. She stares and stops talking for a moment, then demanding for him to open the door as she slowly turns into a monster, bleeding from the nose, and her skin starts to change. Starving, she says. The music from upstairs starts playing again, and his neighbor gets drawn towards it, running off to someone else in hopes for food. As the monster leaves, Hyun breaks a mop in his room to make a weapon and steps outside to confront it. He hears footsteps coming from the stairwell as he braces himself for a fight. The steps creep closer, and it just happens to be Wook, frustrated that the elevator isn't working. He questions what Hyun is doing, but he's quick to notice the blood on the floor and questions Hyun again. As he tries to explain about the monster, Wook thinks he's fucking with him and goes to hit Hyun, but before he could land a blow, Hyun's nose begins to bleed, and he passes out. Hyun then sees a parasitic-looking organism that speaks to him, insisting that it's on his side, that they're different but the same. It asks him, what is it that he wants? He wakes up thinking it was another weird dream, as he goes on his computer to play a game, but realizes the servers are down. He goes online to find out what's happening, and sees that all the trending topics are about monsters. Hyun quickly checks outside to see the end of the world. Now, we get introduced to Jisoo. She's a bass player from upstairs, and I want to make sure you guys know that this is a flashback. Alright, anyways. As she steps outside her apartment, she meets another lady who asks if Jisoo had just moved in. Jisoo then asks how old the lady's baby is, but when she looks inside the stroller, she finds it empty, even though she acts as if there was a baby inside of it. A poor lady, isn't she? A man comes up to Jisoo explaining that the baby had passed away a year ago. While she wasn't looking, her stroller slid down the road and was hit by a car. He introduces himself as Jae-hun. As they talk, he reveals that he's a Korean teacher and that he's a devout Christian, going to church right now. We go back to the present as the monster reaches Jisoo's room. Ringing her doorbell, she thinks that maybe she got carried away while she was playing. Jisoo tries to apologize, but the monster just rams into the door, banging and banging, saying again how it's starving. Jisoo apologizes again, but the monster persists, only stopping suddenly when she threatens to call the police. We see Wook arrive at the scene, as the monster had already left, seeing the big dent the monster left and a blood trail leading to a broken window. Jisoo comes out to explain what happened with the girl, but Wook just punches her door as hard as possible, thinking that there's no way any woman had left a dent this massive. Wook and Jisoo then go to Hyun's apartment and attempt to call the police for help, though a call wasn't able to get through anywhere. As they discuss what to do, Wook finally decides to go to the security office alone, noting that whatever damaged Jisoo's door wasn't human, and that it wasn't safe. On the first floor, a group of residents are all trying to figure out what is going on, as every entrance of the building is blocked off, and the security office is locked. Wook gathers more information, finding out that no one has seen the security guard since yesterday, and that the entire building is blocked from the outside. The little kid from earlier, whose name is Eun, happens to be there, and Wook asks where her brother is. He appears, carrying a fire extinguisher to break the door handle to the security office. An old man pushes past him to unlock the front shutters, but as they open, a tall, slender figure is standing by the entrance. Its mouth opens wide and reveals a long tongue. Eun's brother yells to get down, to close the shutter as the monster begins attacking the residents. Glass shatters, and the monster enters the building, killing one of the residents as soon as it steps inside, literally sucking the life out of him, then announcing that it's not enough. Hyuk, Eun's brother, pulls out the fire extinguisher again and blasts it until it's outside, but then it runs out of fuel at the last second. As he prepares to die, Wook jumps in, pushing the monster behind the shutters, and dives back into the building right before they close on him. Wook realizes that wasn't the same monster that Jisoo and Hyun witnessed, as we see through the shutters that there are even more monsters coming closer. Okay, I want to stop here for a second since this is like where the first episode of the K-drama ends, and you can already see like a major difference in the story. First of all, Wook actually has a personality in this one. The K-drama portrays him as like a straight up villain almost. I mean, obviously he's a good guy, but he has almost like no dialogue, and there's no indication that he's even a detective, which is like a major point in the webtoon since we're like learning everything with him, and we even go like, or we even see him go out of his way to figure out what is going on as the apocalypse starts. He doesn't even appear in the first floor with the big group of fuck, I can't talk. With the big group of residents in the K-drama in this episode. Instead of him saving Hyuk, it's like a firefighter who never even appears in the webtoon. And I really dislike the decision to give Wook like such a lacking role in the story. His impact doesn't seem as special as it is in the webtoon, and he's like simply a badass in the show. That's cool, I guess, but there's nothing to connect to, and that's like the beauty of the original story. You can really resonate with the characters and their decisions. You feel fear when they do, and you can hope for them. Another thing is Hyun's mental state. He was already struggling before due to the bullying that he had experienced. The show doesn't really depict the internal struggle that Hyun goes through the entire webtoon, since it's a huge cast of characters or like main characters in the show. It's like that in the webtoon too, but Hyun is like our main character. We see what he sees basically. I want to go deeper into his mindset when I can, and there's so much more I want to say, but we can continue the part of the story, and I'll rant some more after this next part. All right. October 3rd, and the apocalypse has begun. Jisoo starts to worry about Wook being gone for so long and goes out to look for him, leaving Hyun behind. 2 days later, we come back to Hyun just now witnessing the city in chaos and realizing how long he's been out for. He checks his computer and sees a ton of articles relating to a monsterization outbreak and even some videos about some monsters. He grabs his spear and thinks about stepping outside, but is way too scared to face the monsters. I mean, who wouldn't be? Hyun then tries to order some food, but his phone beeps at him loudly. Finally, he tries to go outside and grab that ramen from earlier, only to find a blind monster standing right outside his door. Hyun quickly covers his mouth to avoid making a sound, as the monster steps inside, slamming the door behind it. As it tries to find Hyun, it cries out in frustration that it can't see. Taking advantage of its blindness, Hyun grabs his homemade spear, thinking to take it out, but suddenly, his phone charges to 100% and makes a sound. The monster pierces its arm right into his bed as its attack spreads outward like roots. Hyun said, "Fuck that!" and goes to hide in the bathroom. Hours pass and Hyun is still locked in his bathroom, and as he wakes up and tries to go pee, he starts drifting to sleep again and hits the water, alerting the monster. It shoots its arm through the door, and it spreads all over the room again, barely missing Hyun. As it retracts its arm and leaves Hyun's room, Hyun breathes a sigh of relief and snacks some ramen that was left outside earlier. After waking up from under his bed, he looks outside again to see the new reality of the world he's currently in, and spots a freaky eyeball monster down below. Who knows what that creep's desire was before he became one. Later, Hyun does some reading about the outbreak. It's not a normal virus, and the monsters are not like zombies. Monsterization starts inside of you out of nowhere. Frequent nosebleeds, hallucinations, and fainting are all signs of it. As Hyun starts to realize that he has all of these symptoms, the last bit of the comment states that if anyone has signs of monsterization, they should just kill themselves. Frustrated, he thinks about how he was going to kill himself anyways, and should just try and stay alive until then. Suddenly, a tapping comes from the window, and as Hyun tries to go and see what it is, the creepy eye monster is suddenly there, but it only stares at Hyun as it goes away. Staring at his computer screen, he contemplates if he would even survive until the 25th, his only motivation being that he wants to see his favorite anime in theaters before he dies. He comments into the chat log of the post, and right before he deletes it, he actually gets a response. As they talk, Hyun asks where the other person lives. He says that He lives in a small apartment building and is stuck on the first floor with some other tenants. They plan to go outside and grab resources and also rescue other people who are stuck on the upper floors. The commentator then says that there is also an eyeball monster camping outside of the window. Hyun realizes that he may be talking about the one that he just saw, but then the commentator leaves the chat abruptly. We then see it was actually Hyuk on the other side, and everyone on the first floor gets ready to clear each floor to rescue survivors. When the internet suddenly turns off, he lays on the floor, thinking about how he should just give up and kill himself now while he's still a human. He sees a spider about to eat a fly, saying, "Quit struggling, you're dead now." But the fly is actually able to escape. This is the beginning of Hyun's change. He then overhears some chatter outside the window and sees a dad trying to climb down some rope while his kids are trying to convince him not to leave. The eyeball monster spots the dad, and as Hyun tries to warn him, the eyeball monster quickly goes up to him, and in the moment of shock, the rope rips and the dad falls to his death. The eyeball monster then turns its attention to the kids, and they plead for help. Hyun struggles to decide whether to help them, and then suddenly throws his monitor at it. It gets pissed off and immediately chases him down, but Hyun grabs a spear and tries to stab it in the eye. He misses and gets strangled by the monster. The voice in his head then asks him, "Do you want to breathe? Is that what you desire?" He's able to spin back and stab it in the eye successfully. As the monster staggers, Hyun goes to attack again, screaming that what he desires is to watch the theatrical cut of his anime. He stabs it until he believes that it's dead, but it recovers quickly and appears to have even evolved. Preparing to die, a gunshot comes out of nowhere, blasting the neck of the monster. Seemingly dead, Hyun looks out the window to see that his monster was the one to shoot. The neighbor asks if he is safe, but that also more monsters definitely heard that gunshot and will be coming. Hyun, thinking that they would be safe with the gun, is told that they can't be killed, looking down to see the monster recover yet again. His neighbor then asks Hyun if he wants to save the kids. Reluctant, he finally decides to go outside and gears up. Since monsters make phones beep when they are nearby, he uses earbuds and is able to use his phone as a monster detector. Knowing that it's all clear, he sneaks through the hallway to get to his neighbor's apartment. We get introduced to Dusik. Hyun awkwardly introduces himself as well, but then asks, how can he save the kids? Dusik says that Hyun will have to go off alone, since he's missing a leg, though can make Hyun's weapon more effective for defending against monsters. With the upgrade, he now has to carry a battery in his backpack to power the electric spear. Feeling confident, he now asks if he can kill monsters with it, but Dusik is quick to dismiss the idea, saying that if he can, avoiding monsters is the best option for survival. As Hyun goes downstairs, the loud beeping alerts him, and the blind monster comes into view. Hyun quickly goes to hide in the elevator, but the monster's ear grows larger and hears Hyun trembling. Before it can attack, Hyun stabs it and immediately electrocutes it, dashing down the hallway before it can recover. However, the sound of his footsteps allows it to attack in his direction, and it shoots its arm down the hallway while Hyun narrowly dodges it, the roots from its arm expanding again. Hyun then throws a glass bottle to bait it. As it attacks, he quickly stabs it in the back of the head and electrocutes it once more. He then flees and continues to go and save the kids. Going down the stairs, a hand suddenly goes over his shoulder. It's another version of Hyun, but it calls him a hypocrite for thinking that he's a good person for trying to save the kids, berating him for ignoring other people's feelings that he hurt and running away from it. Peeking into the next floor, Hyun sees a gigantic muscular monster. As the monster goes into another room, he sneaks by and tries to get into the children's room. But then slime drips onto him, and opening the door, he's faced with a transparent slime monster. It asks him if he can see it, and almost suffocates him, tossing him on the opposite side of the room, and then runs away. The kids come out from hiding and ask if maybe their dad survived the fall. Hyun tells them that no one could survive that fall. They begin to cry, and he tries to reassure them that there is a man with a lot of food that can take care of them, and Hyun will protect them. They sneak into the hallway, being sure to avoid the muscle monster while it's eating in another room. Though, as they make their way to the stairs, the voice in Hyun's head laughs at him. Now I know for sure, Hyun-cha, what your desire is, as he suffers a bad nosebleed and begins to transform. If you made it this far, thank you for listening, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the story so far. This is my final rant for the video, and I'll make another part to continue the story, but I really recommend that you read it for yourself, because there's only so much I can recap, and right now I'm gonna go over some of the stuff that I missed, as well as some more comparisons between the show and the webtoon. The major difference is also the connections between the characters. Some spoilers here, by the way. The relationship between Hyun and Hyuk has such a stronger bond in the webtoon than in the show, and you can admire that so much in the webtoon. Like their banter in the chat room before, I didn't get to go through it, but that is not present in the show at all. And the user crew is also misused in the show. Instead of it being Hyuk, it is a completely different person who gives more info on the outbreak in the show. Like instead of like seeing it online, you'll see it from this character crew, but it's not the same person, you know. Again, another thing is Hyun's backstory. The show does get into it a little bit, but it doesn't show his true internal struggle that he experiences, his depression, his inner voice taunting him at all times to get him to break, using that mental but then also physical threats that he has to worry about. The monsters. He has to worry about monsters. He has to worry about this constant lingering threat that he's going to turn into one. It takes every part of his insecurity and uses it as a weapon. It knows Hyun. It knows how to hurt him. But just like the fly in the spider's web, he perseveres to survive. Please read this story yourself to see that. And the relationships between every character. But that was just the first 10, I think, chapters, or maybe 20. But I will recap some more for sure. This video is just taking too long and I kind of want to get it out. But if you guys have any more feedback, that'd be greatly appreciated. Like I want to be able to do some animations for each one of the pictures, just like zooming in and out, because it's kind of stagnant. But that's kind of complicated for me right now, and I want to get this as soon as possible done. But this recap is so I can go dive deeper onto the struggles that Hyun-cha experiences, and also the relationships of other characters. So stay tuned for that once I finish recapping the entire story. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.